Today, I'm joined by Judith Quin, vocal confidence specialist and embodied voice expert. I brought Judith here because so many women on the fertility journey go quiet in appointments, in conversations with their family, even with their partner. They shrink. They don't say what they actually need. Judith helps people find their voice again, and I think that matters deeply on this journey. Let's get into it. Judith.
My work is about what's happening on the inside. And Judith, your work is about what comes out. So tell us, when you have someone come to you struggling to speak up, what do you think is really going on underneath that?
Oh, what a beautiful opening question, Anne-Marie. Thank you for having me here in your world. When people are struggling to speak up, what's really going on is there's one umbrella thing that's going on. And then there's one other deeper element that's going on. So these two things are always true. The umbrella is the fear of appearing vulnerable. So we go to speak up, but then if this is going to make me vulnerable, and by vulnerable, I mean it may be something really personal. So do you trust the person you're speaking to? It may be that you don't know how they're going to respond. Are they going to judge you negatively? It's a space of the unknown, and that makes you feel vulnerable because what if I get it wrong, etc., etc. So that's that space of vulnerability. And obviously, with the work that you do, it's a really vulnerable space. If someone is wanting to get pregnant and there is unexplained infertility, then there's all the emotions that are going on with that. And that in itself is intrinsically vulnerable. So there's the vulnerability piece. And our voice is such that if we don't feel safe, the throat will close. So if we don't feel safe to be vulnerable, to express ourselves, there will be tension. And all the other symptoms like the brain going really busy, or the brain freezing and not finding the right words, or maybe feeling frustrated or angry or getting teary, and all of that constriction that happens when we don't feel safe to express. So there's the vulnerability. There's also your identity. So your voice is a reflection of every experience or emotion that you've ever had, witnessed, or imagined. Your voice is also a reflection of the thoughts and feelings that you have about yourself, that you have about the situation you're in, that you have about the people you're with. And in that term, your voice is also a reflection of your thoughts and feelings about yourself in relation to the situation you're in, or in relation to the people you're with. So your thoughts and feelings about yourself in general might be, I'm a pretty awesome human being, right? But you might be in a certain situation where your thoughts and feelings about yourself change because you're in comparison to the person, or you're in comparison to the situation. And that is an identity issue. That's vocal identity. And the question I invite people to ask themselves there is, which version of you are you being in those situations where you can't express yourself? Like, which usually younger version of you is filling you up, going, no, 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 not safe to speak in this situation, as opposed to you allowing yourself to be the whole of who you are in that moment, with your skills, your knowledge, your experience, and allowing yourself to bring who you are now, this moment, into the room, rather than allowing a fearful version of you or an uncertain version of you or a previous version of you. Even if the you now is uncertain, even if the you now is fearful, it's allowing that uncertainty and fear, but not denying your knowledge, not denying your experience, not devaluing your knowledge, your experience, and not devaluing, especially I'm sure in many of your client situations, not devaluing your uncertainty. Don't let your uncertainty, actually, if you allow yourself to verbalize it, is really powerful, because then you're like, well, actually, I'm really uncertain about this, and I'm uncertain about this, and I have questions about this. And allowing yourself to voice that uncertainty is actually a real strength, because if we don't ask what we need to know, then we don't get the answers that we're looking for.
Wow. That's quite already an overview of everything and what comes up to the surface, right? And you make me think about how often when we are in challenging situations, it's more the child within us that will come to the surface, and maybe their voice as well instead of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at everything you just said, Judith, tell me, like, why do you think, so there's an example that comes to mind. A lot of women that come to me, they're on this road for quite some time. They have appointments with many doctors, many clinics sometimes. Why do you think it's so hard for them to say what they need in those? They're in front of authority.
You just said the word.
Better than I do.
Yeah, authority. That is the word. So when we are in a situation with people who we perceive to be superior to us in any way, the majority, not all, but the majority of people in those situations with anyone we perceive to be senior or superior or an authority, you go, okay, well, I am not worthy. So this is an identity piece. My opinion isn't worthy because they're the expert. And something I actually mentioned it on a LinkedIn post the other day. Someone was talking about leadership and seniority. And I said, it's really important to remember that leader, senior, authority doesn't mean superior. They are not a superior human being to you. They may have superior knowledge in many fields, but there is no one expert. We very often we go to see an expert, and in our minds we make them into they are the expert. They are an expert. You go for an expert opinion, but another expert might have a different opinion because they have different experience. And you are the authority of your experience.
I love this. I love this because it's so easy, because they've heard so many times the same thing around diagnosis, age, whatever on their journey. It's like they're handing their expertise of themselves, of their body, of their fertility to someone else. So I find it like amazing how you say that. You are the expert. There's no doubt about that. It's so important that we remind them of this.
Yeah. You are the expert on you.
Yeah.
You are your authority on your experience. And so starting a sentence with, in my experience so far, I have been told A, B, C, D, E, F. I have been repeatedly told X, Y, Z. However, my body feels A, B, C. My mind hasn't made sense of that. Would you please tell me HIJ?
Yeah, that's a beautiful refrain. It's like you actually acknowledge and validate whatever you're feeling. Yeah, so it's really good. And let's go one layer deeper, Judith, if you're okay to do that, because I've read so much about the fact that as we are just a cell where everything started, the throat is actually so linked to how the womb creates itself and all the feminine organ develop. So I understand there's really a link between how we open here and how we open down there, right? When we want to receive and receive a baby. So I'm very curious to hear you and your expertise with regards to how this links works, right? What I usually tell women is that, when we are contracted, there's no space for a baby. We can't receive. So we need to create this openness. And I see it with the voice, maybe also like if I have a voice like this, or if I have a voice that propels itself, right? So tell me a bit, how do you see this happening within the body? Maybe specifically in women, but in men as well, like whatever you feel is right to come in here and see how this holds within the body, within the voice, within the throat, because I understand that would be like a mirror, right?
Yes. Yeah. So especially in women, it's true. The root chakra, the root energy center, and the throat are intrinsically linked for men and women. The energy of, for those who don't know the chakra system, there are hundreds of them, but there are 7 key physical ones. It is a South Asian tradition, the energy centers, and the root sits just below the base of the coccyx, so where the external reproductive organs are. The key energies there are safety, security, stability, strength. And what I refer to as the magic key that unlocks the root chakra is the ability to let go. And so the ability to release it. So rather than holding on tight, to release. In women, the larynx and the cervix are actually made of the same cells and the same materials. So it's the same kind of cartilage in the cervix and the larynx, and it is the same type of cells that cover. And you could be forgiven, in some medical drawings, you could be forgiven for mixing them up. And the root and the throat are connected for men as well. So where we're holding on, if we don't feel safe, secure, stable, strong, if there's uncertainty, and of course with your clients, then they're in a space of uncertainty and it doesn't feel safe and they don't feel strong because it's really challenging to let go of holding on to the tension of, but I want a baby. So usually when I work with my clients, we work in releasing whatever is stuck in the root chakra to open the throat. For your clients, I feel what may be beneficial is, yes, working with the root chakra, but through the throat. Because much like, so my background as an actress, classically trained professional actor, and backstage behind any theatre, whether it's a straight play or a musical, you will have actors going, doing all these weird exercises to open their vocal range. And especially if there's any kind of song, you will always practice higher to open lower, and you will practice lower to open higher.
Wow.
So the one impacts the other. So starting to allow yourself to play with your voice with the intention of strengthening, opening. For some of my clients in the past, finding their voice has also been about allowing themselves to express their pleasure vocally in sexual activity. and also in being able to ask for what they need in terms of sensual or sexual activity. So by playing with your voice and working on the energies without having to talk about it, it's the magic. It is not, this is not a talking therapy. Very often we do talk through stuff, but the actual work is in the sounding. So by sounding, I would say, especially the root and the sacral, because the sacral is the internal reproductive organs. So for women, we know the womb sits in there, but for men, the men's internal reproductive organs start in the sacral as well. So they're both connected. So playing with your voice also helps change your state. So if you're in a highly tense, constricted state from the stress of trying to get pregnant, sounding can also help change your state. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, stimulates the vagus nerve. So it stimulates the rest and relax so that you can physically start reconnecting to the vibration in your body and opening up your channels. You can, if you're a visual person, you can visualize sending your energy down. So the two sounds for the root and the sacral they're quite low tones, but even if you've got a really high voice and a low tone for you is whoa, that's okay. Even if a low tone for you is whoa, it's your voice, it's your body. Okay, so I'm not saying you have to make this certain sound or it won't work. What I invite people to do, and maybe we could do this together, let's have an exercise already. Let's go into a relaxation.
Nice.
So a relaxation, if you're in stress mode, that's not going to help getting pregnant. So for men and women, so both partners, if you're trying to naturally get pregnant, male female couple, obviously if you are a woman trying to get pregnant through artificial insemination, then your body needs to be in the best space to receive. So the very simple stress reducing sounds are, the simplest one of all is the hum. So literally just say the word hum and let the M linger. So you breathe in and hum. If you place a hand on your chest and one on your belly, what you're looking to do, and just keep humming, hum. And those of you watching, just keep humming as I'm speaking and just play with your hum. Try a little bit higher, a little bit lower. What you're trying to do is feel the physical vibration in your body. And what you're wanting to stimulate the vagus nerve is low in tone, so low and slow. But never get to the point where you feel like you're forcing. If you're feeling any tension in your throat, come back up in tone. You don't want to be pushing your voice low. You just want it to be, and what you're trying to do is feel as much resonance you can here in your chest, and imagine that you're sending the sound, because that's actually what you're doing, sending the sound down your spine. And if you're visual, you might want to visualize a light traveling down, like maybe from your heart, right? All the love that you have for this future child, extending this light down your spine into your sacral and your root spaces, so that you are so that's a nervous system reset, to calm, to soothe, to ease. If you're wanting to open, if you're wanting to let go of what you're holding on to, especially if you've got tension, frustration, anger, right? Anger with the system and all the people going, oh, well, in my expert opinion, you should give up trying. Whatever it is that you might have frustration or anger around, then we want the root chakra sound. And this is a really deep sound. And what I do that really helps is I take my hands like this, and then I turn them and face them. My palms are forward and my fingers are facing the earth. And I put both feet flat on the floor. as I'm sounding, and you can sound any frustration, tension, anything that's not useful to be in your body, right? Conception, is going to, I believe, be enhanced by being in as positive a state as possible. So if we're holding on to tension, frustration, anger, annoyance, any of that stuff, that's not going to help. So take your hands, fingers down, palms forward, and the sound for the root chakra is ho on a low tone. So you can just go ho. And you can send that again. You can send that and imagine, like you can almost imagine at the base of your spine opening up and dumping, like literally dumping all your shit, right? All the stuff you're holding on to, or the letting go.
Sounds good.
Like letting it open. In fact, on my 7-day sound healing retreat back in 2021, I think it was, one of the ladies was late to session, and obviously I think we've been doing the sacral, which is obviously the gut is there. She's like, sorry, had to go to the loo, but we are working on where the gut is, and it's like a sonic colonic. So allowing yourself to let go of what you're holding on to, so that and this is
I think
actually,
we all need that.
I'm right. We all need it, no matter where we are in life. Also, the joy of sounding is, if you can get over, the biggest barrier to this work is self-consciousness about your voice and making silly sounds. So if you're going, oh my God, I couldn't do that. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Then start gently. Just start with the hum. And start gently going, and allowing yourself to hear yourself. Because if you're holding on to judgment about how you sound, that's another negative thing that you're holding in your body. And like I said, your voice is a reflection of your thoughts and feelings about yourself. So if you're going, oh God, no, I sound awful, like this, that's you judging yourself negatively. And that's your voice reflecting that. So it's about building a whole new relationship with your body through your voice. And it's also about building a whole new relationship to yourself and your voice. Because if you're judging your voice, if you're going, oh, I hate my voice, then you're hating a part of yourself. And that's not useful for any of us. So just allowing yourself to play. Also, I'm going to be positive and say, when you do get pregnant, if you end up having a natural birth, if you are used to making sounds, that's going to be really useful when it comes to natural birthing time, if that happens to be the end of your journey. Right?
Amazing.
So.
That's really what I liked from the first day that we met, was understanding that you can use your voice, which is something that we are born with, right? It's everywhere with us. It's something easy. We don't have to go to somebody to get it. And it felt so natural. That's why I wanted to bring you here. And this looks so simple, right? It's like, oh, you just have to get on without sounding silly, right? It's just that thing. And I'm maybe thinking of a question that women watching us may have, which is, okay, when I'm at the doctor or I'm like going to have an appointment, I can't do those sounds. So at the beginning, you were saying, right, you can think of, so I would love to hear you, like, do you have anything that they could do? You talked about light, you talked about colors, anything that they could do in the moment that they can't actually do the sound. Yeah.
Yes. Do the sounding before you leave your home, before you go to that appointment. If you're driving to the appointment, do the sounds in the car, right? So do them. You can also do the sounds silently in your head. When I did the proof of concept study with a doctor who's a fellow of King's College, she's writing it up as a paper at the moment. So we were doing it for physical pain. And some of my proof of concept study attendees, the people who were doing the study, some of them were like, oh, I can't do it. I said, well, do it in your head. And they reported back that, say, sounding out loud was 80% effective. It reduced their pain by 80%. If they did it in their head, it was about 60% effective.
Wow.
So it's still, so if you're sat in that waiting room at the doctor's, starting to feel the frustration again, firstly, you can do a really gentle hum. You can do the quietest hum, right? So, because most people are probably sat there with earbuds in, so no one's going to hear you in it. So you can do the quietest, gentlest hum. Or if you're feeling frustrated or nervous or then you can do it in your head. You can do the right. It doesn't have to be ho. It can be damn doctors. Right? You can do that in your head, going and get it out. The most important thing to do then is to put yourself in the right state to walk into the room. And the right state is the right state for you. But I would always say, allow yourself to have real clarity on what 1 to maximum 3, but ideally what 1 key question do you need an answer to? And if the doctor doesn't give you that answer, that you understand, having the ability to go, thank you for saying that. It felt full of medical language. I don't understand what that means for me on whatever level you need that. So whether it's practically, what practical steps are you saying I should take? Right? Keep your questions nice and concise. Or emotionally, that's great, but that doesn't help me feel any less emotional about this. That doesn't help me feel safer. That doesn't, or name the, that leaves me bereft of hope. If you can allow yourself to name the emotions. But before you go in, I strongly recommend getting rid, even if it's before you leave your home. And then when you're sitting there, getting yourself in the right emotional state, which is the calmest state possible. And if that means just doing a very gentle, light hum under your breath almost when you're sat there, then that will help. Gentle tapping, like you can just gently tap into your body as well. And having real clarity. So if you're feeling it's really hard to express yourself, know what it is you need to know or you want to know before. And this is the having challenging conversations part of what I do. So yes. We've explored the vocal sound healing part of what I do. Now this is the other part of what I do, which is vocal confidence and how to have challenging conversations. The number 1 way to have challenging conversations is to go in with 1 thing that you want to know. 1 main thing, the biggest thing that lies under. And I know it's challenging because you go, well, I've got this and I want to know this and this and this and this. It's like, what's the thing under all of those things? And a great exercise for you to do to understand that is, before going to your appointments, okay, I want to know this and this and this. Well, what's under that? And what's under that? And what's under, well, I need to know this. Well, what's under that one? Because I need to know that. Why? Well, because I need to know, well, what's under that? Oh, and very often you'll get to the thing that makes you go, oh, that's the thing. That's the thing I need to know, but I haven't asked yet. Because it's the actual what lies under everything. So to have a challenging conversation, to feel confident to ask what you need to ask or to say what you need to say, you need to have real clarity. Clarity creates confidence. And if you need to write your questions down before you go in, write them down. Because it's an emotional appointment. Of course it is. Yes. And your mind might go blank. So write it down. But make it as clear and concise as possible. Because then you'll feel rooted and grounded. And that's the other thing you can do the "ho" sound for, is to feel strong. So you can do it to get rid of what you're holding on to. You can also take your hands like this put them down to the earth, and imagine that you're drawing energy up from Mother Earth, like roots of the trees. Imagine you're drawing energy up, and you can go, oh, I'm borrowing strength from Mother Earth to help me feel strong. I'm borrowing strength to help me feel strong. And you can imagine the roots of the trees, or if the ocean is your thing, whatever is your nature thing that helps you feel stronger, you can just go, oh, I receive the strength from Mother Earth. So you can use the sound to both release and receive.
I love what you say, because you were talking about those two moments that are so important for them. And you were now talking about clarity, right? For them to have the answers to their questions. I understand many times they're afraid to have certain answers. And so maybe we avoid then making the exact questions. So I find amazing that you gave this tip to how I get to the real question that's underneath all of it. And the other one that also I loved when you talked about that, when you started, it was with regards to vulnerability. And what worries me is that sometimes I speak to women that tell me that they had to pause the process for a month after they had their last meeting with their doctor or with the clinic because of everything that they heard. And I think it's really handling this expertise part that you were starting with, and also this state in which we go to the appointment, this vulnerability. So building a bit of this assertiveness of who we are and what we want and what's important for us is so important before going to those meetings, scans, or whatever it is, because then we're not in such a vulnerable moment that we take in everything that's said without even questioning it, right? And sometimes it's diagnosis that then play in the head forever, and it's very difficult after that to question it. So if you go in with a calm mind, clear mind, right, doing your exercises, getting grounded, as you were saying, then the state you're in as you hear those words is completely different than going in very vulnerable and open to everything they have to say, basically, and not questioning anything.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because we don't hear when we're in an emotional state, and we can't speak when we're in an emotional state. And this is an emotional topic. So whatever you can do to get yourself in as much clarity as possible. And if you recognize in yourself that you're not receiving, you're not understanding the words being said to you, ask again. Could you say that in a different way? I didn't. So, and even especially if there's lots of medical language, so my untrained ear didn't understand what you just told me. Can you tell me again in really simple terms?
Yeah.
Just allowing yourself that permission to have that space.
Yeah, I think that creates also a bit of self-confidence and self-trust on the process, that I trust myself and what I hear and what I think and what I didn't understand, or what I understand more than whatever I receive from the outside. So I think that's an amazing thing to do.
Yeah.
And Judith, I have a last question. And thank you so much for all the information that you provided that is so different to everything we've had on the series up until now. I know you help people find their voice. So can you tell us what it is, like, for these women that listen to us, what it is to find your voice, and what does it actually change beyond the conversation itself?
Oh, your identity. It's like, how are you identifying yourself? Your voice is a reflection of how you're identifying yourself. Are you identifying yourself as a capable human being? Are you identifying yourself as hopeless? Are you identifying yourself as the version of you who you used to be? We have a wholeness, right? We are all whole. Even our broken bits are a part of our wholeness. And most of our broken bits, they eventually heal in one way, shape, form, or another. And even in the moments where they're not, whether it's mental, physical, energetic, emotional collapse, that's still a part of our wholeness. And very often, when we're in challenging situations, we make the challenge our identity. And then our voice reflects our challenge. Whereas actually, we are always both something and something else, and very often, and something else, and something else, and something else. So working with and through your voice helps you with deep self-awareness, with having an incredible tool that assists in state change, with a tool that helps with pain, whether that's mental, physical, or emotional pain. And most importantly, that helps you reconnect to the identity of who you are now in your wholeness, so that you can go into any situation and have the possibility of putting yourself in there in your wholeness. Of course, we're all human. There are moments when we're just broken, crying, blubbering messes who want to curl up on a sofa under a duvet for 2 days, right? And actually allowing yourself to even howl out your pain in snot and tears is a really healthy sounding process. So using your voice in this way helps you to step into the new identity. And when we let go of the roles, the labels, the patterns of our expectations of ourselves, of the expectations or the labels or the roles other people put upon us, when we allow ourselves to release them and step into the who we are now in this moment, we make space for the who we might become. So yeah, in one word, I would say it's identity, but I'll always use 100 words where one will do.
That's beautiful. And I understand from everything that you've shared since the beginning, it's like when you talk, for example, about pleasure, it's like I'm giving voice. I am communicating my inner voice that I have in my head, right? But at the same time, that inner voice that's saying a lot of bad stuff about me, the fact that I understand it and I work through my voice, I can change that as well. So it's like really, yeah, using this tool that we all have. And I think we often maybe silence. I see that in myself. And if I look at my life, I've silenced it a lot, maybe because also in childhood, we learn to silence it. But it's like we use this to understand better the inner voice and those maybe words, things that we tell ourselves or that we silence, not to actually say them and tell other people exactly what we're thinking and what we want. So yeah,
and allowing ourselves to have a voice.
Yeah,
it's so important. Allowing yourself, especially in the situation that your people are coming to you for, allowing yourself to have a voice and knowing and asking yourself, what's under this and what's under this, so that you actually know not just what's going on for you, but actually what do you really want?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to know? What do you want to feel? What do you actually really want? Not your expectations from a version of you 5 years ago, not your expectations of your parents, not your expectations of society, not your expectations of you 25 years ago. What do you really want now? Because when we really come to that, and I say this is all the philosophy in my book, which is stop shoulding, start wanting, knowing what you want. Because it might be something as simple as, what I really want is clarity, or what I really want is to explore every single possible way. What I really want is acceptance. What I really want, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But in getting that clarity, you will know what your voice is, and then it'll be easier to express it.
Yeah, and understanding that the link is direct with the cervix was quite interesting as well, because if you can't voice it, if it's, stuck in your throat, maybe that's also a reflection of something that's happening in the womb, in the reproductive system that we want to open to be able to receive. So that's a beautiful way also of understanding that what might be happening.
And especially from my understanding of friends who've been in these situations, because then suddenly sex becomes all about having the baby and nothing about the pleasure. And so actually, when we allow ourselves to let go a little more with both our body and our voice, so where can you allow yourself to be softer, gentler, more passionate, whatever that is, and how does the voice come into that?
Yeah, and it's another tool that maybe help you observe things a different way. So thank you so much for being here, for sharing your expertise and your view on fertility and what might be useful for these women. Thank you so much, Judith, for being here. And I'm sure that it will help many, many women watching us and hearing you. Thank you.
An absolute delight. Thank you.